Hello and welcome to another design ranking video, this time covering the blind swordsman and 3D era fan favorite, Kenshi. Fun fact, this is the first 3D era original character that we've covered on this series. Before we get started, for anyone who hasn't seen the previous videos in this series, let's reiterate the rules. The first rule is that I will only be considering designs from Mortal Kombat games, which means no comics, movies, or cartoons, or any other game franchise that a character may have been a part of. The second rule is that I will not be ranking any repeated or reused costumes, which means no recreated classic costumes from the later games, or most of the outfits from Mortal Kombat Armageddon. The third rule is for Mortal Kombat 11 only, so it's irrelevant. And the fourth and final rule is that I will not be ranking any designs from Mortal Kombat mobile games, only console releases. Now, let's get on to Kenshi's 12 designs. At number 12, we have this abomination from Mortal Kombat 1. Now, for the most part, this is a redesign of an outfit that we're going to see much higher on this list, but with only one major difference, and that is the god-awful hair. And it's not helped by the fact that the colors on this are just atrocious. Someone on the Mortal Kombat 1 design team has to be Irish, because the obsession with green and orange in this game is just abhorrent. Oh, and also that weird face tattoo thing you can barely see because he's wearing glasses. Why? Bad way to start off the ranking, and just a completely unnecessary design. Like, what was even the theme or idea behind this one? Thankfully, moving forward, things get a lot better. With number 11, we have his helmeted design from Mortal Kombat 1. This one is pretty fun in concept, a Japanese-inspired design similar to the Ronin one from Mortal Kombat X, which we'll cover later. However, in execution, it just looks a little bit awkward to me. The helmet is supposed to look like a samurai helmet, similar to what Shao Kahn wears, but they don't fully commit to making it look the way those are supposed to look, making this aspect of the design feel very incomplete. And I also think it doesn't mesh very well with the blindfold, and it makes it look like the helmet is just a size too small for his head. The rest of the outfit is nothing special, just a black bodysuit with some armor. I'm not really a huge fan of the colors on this one, and I think some of the other palettes make this look a little bit better, but we're not considering those for this one. Also, I'm not sure how I feel about that big loincloth he has, but right now at this moment, I'm kind of leaning towards liking it, but I'm flippy-floppy on it. Overall, just a random thrown together design that doesn't have much significance or reason to exist other than just padding his costume count, but not outright terrible like the last one. Next at number 10, we have the Mortal Kombat Deadly Alliance alternate design, which I guess is supposed to be Kenshi from before becoming blinded, but it looks more like a certain other protagonist from another fighting game franchise. Yeah, this is clearly a reference to Ryu from Street Fighter, and although it's cool to have, it doesn't really fit Kenshi and it has none of the defining characteristics his designs usually have. Obviously, this isn't entirely the design's fault. Of course, the whole point of it is that it's from before he became blinded, so his most iconic design aspect, the blindfold, isn't going to be present, but I still feel like you can give off vibes of Kenshi without that. And I think a good example of that is actually the Snowblind design. And yeah, shocker, Oddity said something nice about the Legends movies, but seriously, I think this is a really good pre-blindness Kenshi design. Anyways, let's move on to the next design at number 9, which may be a bit controversial, but I was never a huge fan of his Deception design, which I think is a big step down from his Deadly Alliance one. Firstly, and this might be a bit weird, but once I saw it, I couldn't unsee it, the chest plate armor thing that he wears has a gap down the middle that totally makes it look like he's wearing a tie, automatically making this design look a little goofy to me. And it isn't helped by the huge collar and the metal clip, I guess, that he's wearing that just makes it look even more like he's wearing a suit and tie. But other than that, I think the armor that he's wearing on his chest is way too bulky, specifically around the shoulders, and especially when comparing it to the previous outfit, it just feels like a bit of a disappointing development for Kenshi's designs. At number 8, I have the Yakuza design from Mortal Kombat 1, or the one that he wears in his first appearance from story mode, and this isn't really anything too spectacular, but I think it looks pretty neat, and I like the concept of Yakuza Kenshi, and I think this design exemplifies that. However, I have two issues with it. Firstly, the in-game version of this design does not let you remove the blindfold, which I think is just kind of baffling considering the story mode version doesn't wear a blindfold, and there's nothing in the game that requires Kenshi to wear a blindfold, so I don't know why that's not an option. Secondly, I think there's another design that just does this concept way better, so I just can't rank this very high in comparison to that one. At number 7, I have the Mortal Kombat X Ronin design, which I think is a great samurai Kenshi. The design isn't really supposed to look like Kenshi, and in that way I can't rank it too high, but I think it does a great job adapting his design into something that doesn't look like Kenshi, but still fits him, if that makes sense. The armor is very samurai inspired, not really anything Kenshi has worn in the past, but it still uses his iconic colors, which already fit the Japanese aesthetic this one was going for, so not a huge change there or anything. But my personal favorite thing are the wraps around his head that cover his eyes, representing Kenshi with the blindness, but also fits the samurai aesthetic that this design is going for. And coupled with that, I think the mask is really cool, and although I wouldn't want it as a main design or anything, I think they should experiment more with masked Kenshi designs. At number 6, we have the design that I was referencing just a little bit ago, and that is the Order of Darkness design from Mortal Kombat 1, which unfortunately currently isn't usable without mods, so that sucks. And to get out of the way first, no, I don't really like the glasses on this one, and it's not that I'm opposed to glasses Kenshi, but I don't think these ones specifically fit him very much. But the rest of the design, I believe, is an upgrade from that original Yakuza design. The differences are very minor, but the undershirt has a bit more Asian inspiration to it, and there's also this vibrant red belt underneath, and speaking of the colors, they're much better on this one, with the jacket being an almost maroon color. Though, one thing I want to mention that isn't a criticism of this design, but why are there no designs in this game that show off his hand and presumably arm tattoos? It's a really cool design evolution of the character, especially with his Yakuza inspirations, but all his designs either have long sleeves or even gloves that just completely cover him up. Weird. Getting into the top 5, at number 5, we have the Mortal Kombat X design. I think this is a pretty decent take on an older, more grizzled Kenshi. I think the beard fits pretty well, and although the dull colors get a bit of an eye roll from me, I think the actual design and texture of the suit is great. It has a bit more militaristic inspiration, showing the alliance that he has with the Special Forces at this point in this game's timeline. Not much to talk about here. I think it's pretty simply a decent design, especially for Mortal Kombat X and this version of the character. Now moving on to number 4, we have the PS Vita design. Yeah, you probably didn't even know this one existed. This design is obviously pretty obscure, but I also think it's pretty dang great. The big thing about this one is obviously that he does not have the blindfold, and I think the eyes look a little bit weird, which might be a little insensitive, but other than that, I think this is very underrated. I think the short sleeves showing his forearms look pretty great, and I really like the design of his torso. The pants do look a little bit robot-y, and so I do wish they fit the rest of the design a bit more, and also the colors are a bit dull, but I think this is a design more people should talk about and that more designs should take inspiration from in the future, because it has a lot of great design aspects that I would love to see adapted. Now getting into the top 3, I believe this to be the definitive top 3 for Kenshi designs, the Holy Trinity, and I think you'd be hard pressed to find anyone who doesn't have these 3 designs as their top 3 Kenshi designs. But in what order? Well, I can't speak for everyone, but here's mine. At number 3, I have the Mortal Kombat 1 design. This design is a great repurposing of elements from the Mortal Kombat X design, cleaning it up, saturating it a bit more, thank God, and making it a fire design for Kenshi. When I first saw this, I think during the gameplay trailer, I just thought, yeah, that's Kenshi. The design takes a lot of what has worked from various past Kenshi designs, streamlines it, and combines them all into something that really works. Take, for example, the trench coat, which you'd think had been a part of more Kenshi designs in the past, but no, it's only been a part of 2. Mortal Kombat X, Mortal Kombat 1, and it just proves how iconic those 2 games made it to his character. But if you look at that Mortal Kombat X one, it's sort of over-designed in a lot of aspects. The patterns, the colors, the belts, God, the belts. But the Mortal Kombat 1 version just turns it into a sleek, vibrant red trench coat, and that's it. I also really like the pants on this design. I don't know what the term would be to describe its texture or layout, but the way it's sort of layered, I guess is the term that I'm going to use here, is really cool, and it gives more detail and tangibility to this design. There are only 2 minor things that bug me about this design. Firstly, why does bro got lips on his arm? And also, he looks way too much like Colion. I'm sorry, just ever since I saw this guy unmasked or unblindfolded in that trailer for the first time, And the fear that set in before I knew it was Kenshi, and I thought this man was Cole Young in Mortal Kombat 1, I'll never forget that. That's deep within my soul. Forever. And I just can't get past it with this one. Moving on to number 2, I have the Mortal Kombat Deadly Alliance default design. I know everyone's gonna ravage me for not having this at number 1, but listen, it was by a hair, by a sliver, just barely. I struggle with this pick so much, but just right now in this moment, I just feel like it's just a little bit worse than my number 1 pick. But not to say this is a bad design at all, because it isn't. This is by far the greatest initial design a character has had in their first appearance since the arcade era, which is a big accomplishment. A little, sorta. There hasn't been a lot of great initial designs for characters since the arcade era, but still. This design has become so iconic and so associated with Kenshi's character for a really good reason. And yes, technically, it's from the Matrix Revolutions, that's where they pulled inspiration from, but if you asked 100 people, I think more people would say, oh, that's Kenshi, or at least, oh, that's from Mortal Kombat, then people would say, oh, that's from the Matrix. Hey, editing oddity here, and it turns out, after some research, the Matrix Revolutions actually came out after Deadly Alliance, meaning that they stole it from Mortal Kombat, not the other way around. So, ha! Suck on that! Matrix Revolutions director? Creator? I don't know. Yeah, editing oddity out. But this is just some top tier design work. Everything falls into place just perfectly, even besides the blindfold. The armor is so form-fitting, and the colors, the balance of red, white, black, all of it, just perfect. I don't have anything negative to say about this one. I think it set the bar super, super high for future Kenshi designs, a bar that I think only one other design has been able to surpass. By a hair. And what is that? Well, I guess that leads us into number 1. At number 1, the best Kenshi design, in my opinion, is Mortal Kombat 9. This one just barely edges out the Deadly Alliance one for just a handful of minor reasons. Firstly, there's more red on this one, and I know I said the Deadly Alliance design had the perfect balance of colors, but I think for what this design is going for, I think the way that they use the colors is just a little cooler looking. Also, I really like the little white dragon on his left shin guard. It just looks weirdly satisfying to look at with the shape of the shin guard coupled with the way the decal sort of forms around it. Yeah, I just have a weird aesthetic liking to those types of things. The glowing blue circles on the back of his hands is a great addition, and it makes his powers look super cool when he's like waving his hands around. Lastly, and this is gonna sound weird and very, very minor, but the fact that the sash is wrapped around the opposite side from his larger shoulder pad compared to the Deadly Alliance design where it's on the same shoulder just balances out the design a little bit better. Yeah, that one's minuscule. And those, 4 things just barely make this design better than the Deadly Alliance one, in my opinion. And I think it's a great evolution of his design for the new generation of consoles and the new graphics. Only thing I wish is that it would have been in action in some sort of story mode, but unfortunately, seeing as Kenshi was DLC, we never got that. And with that, that's it for today's design ranking. Let me know which characters you'd like to see covered in the comments. Also, next Monday at 5 p.m. PST, good friend of the channel, Knick-Knack Paddywhack, will be releasing his Katana Costumes ranked video, so definitely make sure to subscribe to his channel and check that out. Link in the description. And also make sure to check out the links to my merch store, Twitter, and Instagram in the description below. And while you're down there, give this video a like to show your support, as well as subscribe and turn the notification bell to know when my next video gets uploaded. With that being said, that's it for this video, my fellow oddities. I'll see you next time.